Christine Moody was a 32-year-old woman starting over after a difficult marriage.
Christine had finally made the decision to open her heart back up to love.
And she would get her second chance in the arms of a 27-year-old preacher son named Jeremy Moody.
He was heavily involved in church.
He's just a good old boy from South Carolina, and she could be the girl next door.
But their faith in God wasn't the only thing that connected them.
The attraction and the intensity is there. Felt like a fair.
Just months they were married.
But their picture-perfect romance would be ripped apart when police discovered a grisly double homicide.
They were stabbed multiple times.
It was disgusting.
Now, follow investigators as they try to determine what caused this baffling crime. See chilling video footage that reveals the victim's final moments and unearth evidence that leaves police wondering if this seemingly God-fearing couple was hiding something more evil and terrifying than anyone could imagine.
You couldn't turn the channel without hearing the story.
This was their moment of glory. This was their 15 minutes of fame.
They had wanted to go down in history.
July 21st, 2013, Union County, South Carolina. It was just after 8:30 p.m. when a local man stopped to pick up his car from a neighbor, an amateur auto mechanic who ran a repair shop out of his garage.
A neighbor had come to get his car fixed, and as he came up to the house, he noticed the front door was open.
The man called out to see if anyone was home, but heard no answer. Concerned, he tried to enter the house, but he was met by his neighbor's barking dogs.
And the animals that were in there would not let the neighbor in.
The dogs were clearly upset, and their paws were smearing something on the glass door. It was blood. The neighbor immediately called 911. Within minutes, a patrol officer arrived. By that point, the dogs were no longer guarding the front door and had retreated somewhere inside the house.
As I walked up to the house, I noticed the side door was open. I announced that I was the sheriff's office. No one come to the door.
The officer cautiously entered the home. He carefully searched each room but could find no sign of the occupants. That is, until he reached the living room.
I looked in the den and seen a male and a female on the couch.
Both victims were covered in blood. The dogs were guarding the bodies and wouldn't let the officer any closer. But even from a few feet away, he could tell both victims had been shot, and the woman had been repeatedly stabbed.
And it looked like they was deceased.
She was slumped over the couch with her throat cut. It was disgusting.
But who could have committed such a heinous act of violence? Was this the result of a robbery gone horribly wrong? Or was there a much darker motive at play? Born in 1977, Christine Moody grew up in Southern California. But her life wasn't always sunny.
She wasn't raised in a very loving environment, and there were signs of physical abuse.
Christine had a sad childhood, and she carried that pain, really, her whole life.
As the result, Christine had a hard time trusting anyone, and as a child, she found it difficult to make friends.
Christine was lonely, and she pretty much kept to herself.
Christine decided to turn her life around after high school. Moving out on her own, she was determined to overcome her painful youth.
She starts trying to go out more and meet new people. Eventually, she meets a nice guy, and they start dating.
She met this guy, and seemingly, everything was great.
After dating only a few months, Christine's first boyfriend asked her to marry him. At the time, she was 25, and she thought all of her dreams had come true. But Christine's happiness wouldn't last. After a few years, Christine and her husband began having problems. she divorced her husband and moved to Colorado, where she started dating an old acquaintance from her youth. But her new relationship had a dark side.
He beat her on several occasions. And like some abusive relationships, Christine thought, you know what? He's gonna stop. But he never did.
She was unable to handle the abuse any longer, and so she was brave enough to leave him.
After Christine gets away from him, she vows, I'm never gonna be a victim again.
Now in her early 30s, Christine moved back to California, where she not only found a chance to start over, but a newfound sense of independence as well.
For the first time, there are no family members or an abusive man controlling her. And this has to really be a freeing and just a great feeling for her.
But Christine was still lonely. Then, at 32 years old, Christine decided to try a new approach to finding her soulmate: the internet.
When Christine had finally made the decision to try to open her heart back up to love, she chose the avenue of online dating.
And as Christine looked through the photos of all her possible online matches, one man caught her attention.
She comes across the profile for a strapping young man named Jeremy Moody. And to her, there was just something special about him.
They started talking online, which progressed to talking on the phone.
She was very excited to meet this person.
Jeremy Moody was a 27-year-old good old boy from Union County, South Carolina. And he was nothing like the other men Christine had dealt with in her life.
Jeremy grew up here in Union County. His father was a preacher, his mother was a homemaker. With Jeremy's father being a pastor, he was obviously heavily involved in church. He attended Bible study classes, and as he got older, he even would teach a few Bible study classes on Sunday.
The Moody family never missed the Sunday services and preached their gospel as they believed it.
Like Christine, Jeremy dreamed of one day finding his soulmate and raising a family of his own. But so far, Jeremy hadn't been lucky in love either.
Shortly after college, he met who he thought would be the love of his life. The relationship didn't work out. Jeremy decided to give online dating a try, and that's when he met Christine.
Because there was more than 2,000 miles separating them, Christine and Jeremy got to know each other through email and over the phone. Soon they were spending most of their days and nights talking to each other.
Christine and Jeremy would talk for hours. They had a really deep connection. They were able to talk for a very long time about anything that they could think of.
It seemed Christine and Jeremy were perfect together, but there was only one way to find out for sure.
Christine and Jeremy decided to meet in person.
He doesn't waste any time. He packs his bags to travel from South Carolina to see her.
The lovers were each a bit nervous to meet face to face, but when they laid eyes on each other in the flesh, they happily discovered they were even more attracted to each other. And their physical connection was even more intense than the one they shared online.
When Jeremy went to meet with Christine, their chemistry was out of control and they were obviously heavily attracted to each other.
Christine and Jeremy couldn't keep their hands off each other. For the next several days, they barely left Christine's bedroom. But their connection wasn't just sexual.
In the early parts of Jeremy and Christine's relationship, they opened up to each other and were able to share things with each other that they weren't able to do with anyone else.
He needed someone that was going to be able to show him this unconditional love. Same for her.
Christine was looking for someone she could trust. And she comes across this guy who's devoted to his family and his church.
Christine and Jeremy promised they would always be there to love and cherish one another. And just a little less than a year after they first met, the couple made their vows official.
They met in the early part of 2009, and within just months, they were married.
After the wedding, Christine and Jeremy decided to leave California and move back to Jeremy's hometown in South Carolina. It was an easy move for Christine, who only had bad memories of her home state. And in Union County, the couple could be close to Jeremy's family and his church.
Jeremy was head over heels about Christine, and his friends were really happy for him that he was so enamored with her.
The couple moved in with Jeremy's parents to save up for a place of their own and settled into the laid-back domestic life they both had dreamed of.
While Jeremy was out working, Christine fell into being a homemaker. She was very nurturing, very loving.
Jeremy and Christine were very heavily involved in their church. It was very important to both of them in their relationship.
But just months after their arrival, Jeremy and Christine's faith was tested.
Everything's going great, and then tragedy strikes.
Christine was diagnosed with breast cancer, and then it takes a turn for the worst. She has to have a double mastectomy.
Christine's bout with cancer took a toll on her body, but only strengthened the bond between the newlyweds.
Jeremy was in complete awe of her strength and her courage and saw her as a survivor.
Jeremy supported Christine and admired her, and in some ways it made Jeremy love her more.
And it was Jeremy's love, along with her faith in God, that helped Christine survive. After surgery and nearly a year of treatment, Christine's cancer went into remission. The couple were elated, and after weathering such a traumatic event, they felt nothing could stop them as long as they were together.
They both realized that they had been given a second chance, and they decided to live their life to the fullest.
But an unexpected series of twists would soon put the lovers' faith to the test and lead to a shocking discovery that would leave people wondering what dark secrets Christine and Jeremy were hiding.
This was their moment of glory.
They wanted to go down in history.
Coming up, disturbing information comes to light about the two homicide victims.
This man's past may have come back to haunt him.
And a jaw-dropping twist casts a local couple under a suspicious light.
The crime scene showed a lot of very personal hate toward these two victims.
Newlyweds Christine and Jeremy Moody were two lost souls who found each other online. And their fiery romance, combined with their faith in God, created a bond between them that seemed unbreakable.
Christine and Jeremy were completely obsessed with each other. Their love was unstoppable.
But while the newlyweds were basking in the glow of their honeymoon, investigators in nearby Union County, South Carolina, were responding to a horrific home invasion. At a rural home, an officer had discovered the aftermath of a savage attack.
As I entered the house and went into the den, I seen a male and a female, and it looked like they was deceased.
After the victims' dogs were rounded up and taken to a shelter, officers were able to approach the bodies. Police confirmed both were dead and identified them as the homeowners, 59-year-old mechanic Butch Parker and his wife, 51-year-old Gretchen.
The victims were shot at close range with a .38 caliber handgun. And then after they were shot, they were stabbed multiple times.
Gretchen Parker was slumped over the couch with her throat cut. It was disgusting.
It was clear that whoever killed the Parkers had gone to extreme measures to make sure they were dead. But why?
Their first instincts included thinking that it was just a random robbery, somebody expecting him to have a lot of cash because of his business.
Butch Parker was a mechanic who worked in his own front yard on all kinds of mechanical and small engine problems. The fact that so many people have visited the Parkers for their automotive needs opened up the pool of suspects.
However, nothing appeared to be missing from the home.
The crime scene itself was not cluttered. The house was not ransacked.
There's no forced entry into this house in this case, so it usually means that somebody knew somebody and was willing to open their door to them.
And the savage nature of the attack told investigators this hadn't been a random act of violence.
The crime scene showed a lot of very personal hate toward these two victims.
They went there for the purpose. They knew what that purpose was, and they killed them.
To find out who from the Parkers' lives might have had motive to kill them, investigators took a closer look at Butch and Gretchen's history. Investigators learned that the Parkers had moved to Union County from North Carolina a few years ago and kept mostly to themselves.
They were kind of quiet people.
When the investigators were looking at this case, they saw that the Parkers had no enemies. They were model citizens in the community. They helped people out.
But after a little more digging, police discovered that Butch and Gretchen had a very good reason for wanting to stay out of the public eye.
Butch Parker did have some problems in his background, with 2 sex offenses, one in 1991 and one in 2003.
His first offense was with a child, and the second one was with a 31-year-old handicapped woman.
He never failed to register as a sex offender each year. He was trying to get away from his checkered past, trying to turn over a new leaf and be a new person.
Butch's criminal history was not only shocking, it also provided detectives with a possible motive for the murders.
Was it one of the people he may have molested when he was younger? Was this a revenge killing?
To find out, detectives contacted authorities in North Carolina to learn more about the sexual assault cases and the victims who almost certainly still held a grudge against Butch Parker.
Butch Parker's past may have come back to haunt him.
For all they know, Butch may have gone back to his old ways and molested someone in South Carolina. Only this time, he was killed for it.
However, just as investigators had begun looking into Butch's victims for possible leads, officers at the crime scene made a startling discovery.
One of the things that we noticed that there were surveillance cameras at the scene.
If the cameras were recording on the night of the murders, investigators knew they might hold crucial evidence.
As we were in the house, I said, "Captain, do you think we're really lucky enough that this video system works?"
It's like a detective's dream come true. They may have actually caught these killers on tape.
But little did investigators then know that the Parker surveillance tapes had captured much more than just the killers. What was on those tapes would turn the entire case upside down and unearth a shocking menace lurking in the heart of this small town. Coming up, investigators scour the Parker surveillance footage for any trace of the killers, and in the process, uncover both a startling motive and a connection back to a local couple no one expected.
Our investigators were able to say, "Hey, that's Jeremy Moody, and that the girl is his wife."
By the summer of 2013, Christine and Jeremy Moody had settled into their new life together in rural South Carolina.
Jeremy and Christine were very heavily involved in their church. It was very important to both of them in their relationship.
But on the evening of July 21st, their peaceful community was rocked by the news of a gruesome double murder. 59-year-old Butch Parker and his wife Gretchen had been found brutally shot and stabbed to death inside their home, leaving Union County police scrambling for answers. Crime scene investigators discovered that the Parkers had installed security cameras, which meant they may have the killer caught on tape.
There was a sign on the property that said, "Smile, you're on camera."
When police took a closer look at surveillance footage and queued up to the time of the murders, they saw what appeared to be Butch and Gretchen Parker and 2 other people. Police suspected that the man and woman from the video might be the Parkers' killers. But the low quality of the recording made determining anything beyond the killers' genders nearly impossible.
The only problem that we had with the recording system is that the strength of lens was not that strong.
The tapes were too blurry to give detectives anything of use in the investigation. But with little else to go on, Union County investigators weren't ready to give up.
I reached out to Sheriff Chuck Wright in Spartanburg County. I called him and I told him, "Don't you have the capability of enhancing video?" He said yes.
Realizing it was a long shot, Union County Police turned the tapes over to specialists in Spartanburg to see what they could come up with. In the meantime, investigators turned their focus to the dark secret they had uncovered from Butch Parker's past.
He had had 2 sexual molestation charges against him.
Even though Butch's crimes were over a decade old, investigators knew that if one of Butch's victims wanted to find him, it wouldn't have been hard to do.
State law requires us to post all sex offenders on the statewide database.
So they thought, is this somebody who he had molested in the past? Did they come back to haunt him?
Investigators had requested records on Butch's former victims from authorities in North Carolina. When they received the case files, they hoped to find something that might reveal a potential suspect to the murders.
Maybe a friend or family member of one of the victims who thought Butch got off a little too easily. Maybe they're going to take justice into their own hands.
But the search ultimately turned out to be a dead end.
They were not finding that any of these leads were getting them anywhere.
Forensic specialists continued to work the crime scene. But other than the victims' bodies, the killers seemed to have left no physical evidence behind.
No murder weapon, no prints, no DNA. For a while, it's starting to look like they might not be able to figure out who did this.
With all other leads coming to dead ends, the case seemed to hinge on whether video specialists would be able to enhance the grainy video footage of the suspected killers. And on July 23rd, investigators got the break they were hoping for. Video specialists in Spartanburg had successfully enhanced the surveillance footage from the Parkers' home.
We got the video. We brought them back to our office.
The enhanced tapes gave police a much better look at the man and woman who drove up to the Parkers' house. The footage showed the couple speaking with Butch and Gretchen in their yard, and after a few minutes, all 4 went inside.
On the surveillance video, you see the Parkers leading them into the house.
At first glance, the couple's interaction with the Parkers seemed friendly enough, and police were beginning to fear that the man and woman captured on the tapes weren't the killers after all. That is, until one officer noticed that as the group entered the Parkers' home, the unidentified man had pulled out a gun. A few minutes later, the cameras caught the man and woman leaving the home, but Butch and Gretchen weren't with them.
They walked back out on the side porch and smoked a cigarette, and after they smoked a cigarette, they went back to the car and drove off.
Who were this man and woman? Luckily for investigators, Union County is not that big of a place.
So they show the video to all of the officers in town, hoping that they might be able to identify these images.
A number of our investigators were able to say, hey, that's Jeremy Moody. He was arrested a couple of years before. He was selling prescription medicine.
Detectives were surprised. Aside from the drug arrest in 2012, Jeremy Moody was not known for being a troublemaker.
Jeremy's dad was a preacher. Jeremy was a Sunday school teacher.
And at his indictment on his drug charges, Jeremy had explained that he was only selling the pills to help pay off medical bills that had piled up from his wife Christine's battle with cancer.
Christine and Jeremy had fallen on hard times. Christine was on disability because of her breast cancer, and Jeremy wasn't working either.
Adding to the mystery was the fact that neither Jeremy nor Christine had any apparent connection to Butch or Gretchen Parker. And with their ties to the church and Christine's medical history, the Moody's didn't seem like the kind of people to be involved in such a brutal murder.
At first glance, Christine and Jeremy don't really jump out to you as cold-blooded killers. He's just a good old boy from South Carolina, and she could be the girl next door.
But one officer thought otherwise. Jermaine Smith was a detective in the department's gang investigation unit, and he remembered that at the time of the drug arrest, he noticed Jeremy was covered in distinctive gang tattoos. tattoos associated with the white power and neo-Nazi movements.
He had a skinhead on his neck and white power on top of his head.
Multiple tattoos on his body, 88 on one hand, which is the symbol for Heil Hitler.
At the time, Detective Smith and local officers had been shocked. Jeremy had a positive reputation in town. How had he become associated with the white power movement? When pressed, Jeremy refused to share more with Detective Smith. So the investigator looked deeper into Jeremy's life and soon learned that Jeremy and Christine weren't the simple church-going couple they pretended to be.
Both Jeremy and Christine Moody were heavily involved in Crew 41, which is a neo-Nazi white supremacist group.
Jeremy's family and friends told police that they'd been horrified to learn he'd become involved in white supremacy. They also said it was Christine who'd introduced Jeremy to the hate group when he'd first gone to visit her in California.
Christine was heavily involved in white supremacy. She had numerous tattoos on her, and it became clear that Christine was the influence on Jeremy.
This movement, it seemed to bring them closer together.
It was a stunning revelation and led Detective Smith to suspect that Jeremy hadn't simply been selling pills to pay medical expenses, but was in fact involved in drug trafficking for Crew 41.
The investigators were watching Jeremy Moody because they thought maybe he was involved in the drug trade.
Smith had confronted Jeremy with this theory before he was arraigned on the drug charges. Jeremy admitted that Smith was right. He was trafficking drugs for Crew 41. And this time, Jeremy decided he was more than happy to talk about his involvement with the hate group and his white power beliefs.
He told me that he just didn't respect African Americans.
But Jeremy had been especially proud of Christine's role in the neo-Nazi organization.
She had several tattoos, one being OG triple OG on her hand, which means that she was more like a leader with the white supremacists. She was a shot caller.
They were the South Carolina connection. Jeremy and Christine had been recruiting online, trying to get people to join this organization.
The fact that Jeremy and Christine were heavily involved in a white supremacy group was shocking. But what did it have to do with the murder of Butch and Gretchen Parker?
Didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because if you're a white supremacist, why are you killing, child molesters? It just didn't go together.
Regardless of motive, the security camera footage seemed to prove Jeremy was the man in the Parker's video security footage. The police identified Christine as the woman who was with him. So in the early morning hours of July 24th, detectives placed Jeremy and Christine under arrest for suspicion of murder. But when investigators finally sat down to question the couple, they were in for another shock. Coming up, detectives finally learn the motive behind the Parker's killings.
He says, "I'm not here for your money."
Only to discover the two brutal murders might just be the beginning.
He wanted to be a serial killer. He wanted to go down in history.
Christine and Jeremy Moody were newlyweds who'd overcome a frightening battle with breast cancer, thanks in part to their seemingly steadfast faith, both in the church and in each other. But in the summer of 2013, homicide detectives in South Carolina discovered that the couple's fervent passion was fueled by much darker beliefs than scripture.
Both Jeremy and Christine shared a dark side. They were both very heavily involved in the neo-Nazi community.
Even more disturbing was the fact that the couple had just been arrested for committing a horrific double homicide, after security cameras had caught them outside the home where local mechanic Butch Parker and his wife Gretchen had been found brutally shot and stabbed to death.
They went into the house that afternoon with the Parkers. We knew at that time that both of them were involved.
But investigators were left wondering, why would a self-proclaimed white supremacist kill a white couple? When police posed the question to Jeremy, He told them he was willing to reveal the couple's motive for the murders, but he was only willing to talk to one person.
Jeremy refused to talk to anybody but Officer Jermaine Smith.
Detective Jermaine Smith was the gang investigator who had previously interviewed Jeremy about his involvement with the neo-Nazi group Crew 41. But why would a white supremacist demand to speak exclusively with a black police officer?
The one person that he trusted in law enforcement was an African-American investigator, Jermaine.
Detective Smith agreed to sit down with Jeremy, who gave a surprising answer for why he requested the law enforcement officer.
He tells me, Jermaine, I'm not going to talk to anyone but you because you've never judged me. You've always been good to me.
Jeremy then proceeded to share more of his white supremacy beliefs with Detective Smith. And Jeremy made it clear that Crew 41 didn't have a problem with only African Americans.
Crew 41 truly believed that they were the master race, and they were against the Jews, the blacks, and any sexual perverts.
And for Christine and Jeremy, there was one group of people they hated more than any other: child molesters. Jeremy explained that when he and Christine first met, they'd shared everything with one another, including their darkest secrets. And Christine had admitted she hadn't just been physically abused as a child, she'd been sexually abused as well.
Christine Moody had been sexually abused since the age of 2.
Christine told Jeremy that she'd been molested by a close family friend repeatedly until she was a teenager. It was the reason she'd fled her home in the first place.
Because Christine had been abused sexually by somebody close to her, she developed post-traumatic stress disorder.
After Christine told Jeremy about her traumatic childhood, he trusted her with something he'd never been able to admit to anyone else.
Jeremy shared with Christine that he was sexually assaulted by his grandfather.
Jeremy was molested multiple times as he was growing up.
In the couple's minds, the revelation that they both shared histories of sexual abuse only made for more proof that they were soulmates.
It just made them fall more in love with each other. They were able to connect because they shared these ties together.
Those ties had also given the couple special reason to want sexual predators like Butch Parker to suffer. In fact, Jeremy revealed that just after he and Christine got married, they'd come up with a plan to exact their revenge.
And the two vowed that they would rid the world of child molesters. This became a huge obsession for Jeremy and Christine.
They were going to start by getting rid of all the sex offenders in their hometown. And at the top of the list of registered child sex offenders in Union County was the name Butch Parker.
Jeremy and Christine put their plan into motion. And after scouring the area for a list of child molesters, they pulled Butch Parker's name at random.
Mr. Parker was targeted because he was a sex offender. He had been convicted of various sexual assaults and was on the sex offender registry. That's how he came to their attention.
On the morning of July 21st, Jeremy and Christine began their day as they did every Sunday. They went to church. But once the service was over, the couple drove to Butch Parker's house, posing as customers in need of car repair.
Jeremy used the guise of pretending like he had car problems.
He walks up to the car and gets in the car and cranks the car.
Of course, nothing was actually wrong with their car. So when Butch was unable to find the source of the problem, Jeremy made another request.
He said he needed to use the phone to call somebody. And that's how he got them back in the house.
And as they go in the house, Jeremy then has a gun in his hand, with Christine having a knife behind her back.
Once they were inside, Jeremy continued to point the gun at Butch. But the mechanic didn't yet understand the danger he and his wife were in.
The Parkers are pleading with them that they have no money. But Jeremy says, "I'm not here for your money. I'm here to kill you because you're a child molester."
And then he turns around and he shoots Gretchen Parker.
At that point, both Butch and Gretchen's bodies were riddled with bullets. But both were still alive. That's when Jeremy said Christine took over with her knife.
Christine Moody goes over to Gretchen and slits her throat with a knife. She sees Parker laying there motionless, and she goes over and stabs him with a knife just for good measure.
Jeremy explained that neither he nor his wife regretted any part of what they'd done, even murdering an innocent woman.
Gretchen Parker was clearly a collateral damage. She was just Butch's wife. She was not the molester, but she was there at the time.
It was a horrifying tale of cold-blooded murder. But it wasn't over yet. According to Jeremy, this wasn't the first time he killed someone.
He told Jermaine Smith that he had killed other people.
He started to giving us names of locations where he had killed people in the past. He told us about a person that he'd killed that was fishing on a bridge and he threw in the river.
He also tried to take responsibility for a number of other deaths.
In addition to the Parkers, Jeremy tried to take credit for 4 other murders. Some he claimed were motivated by racial hatred, others by personal grudges. And while Jeremy said he committed most of these killings alone, he proudly boasted that he and Christine were planning to add more victims to his tally. In fact, the couple had already picked out the next child molester they intended to rid from Union County.
Jeremy said that if he had not been arrested that night, they were planning a murder that following Wednesday of another sex offender.
Investigators were stunned. Not only had Jeremy confessed to being a mass murderer, he showed absolutely no remorse. In fact, he seemed to enjoy the recognition of his gruesome acts of violence.
He wanted to be a serial killer. He wanted to go down in history for what he had done.
But how much of what he told them was true? How many people other than Butch and Gretchen Parker had he really killed?
There's only one person who can verify anything that Jeremy has told them, and that's his wife, Christine.
When detectives questioned Christine, she wouldn't say much, but she denied taking part in any of the murders, including the double homicide of Butch and Gretchen Parker.
When she was questioned, she said that Jeremy did it all. He had planned it, that she was just there.
Beyond her denials, Christine refused to cooperate with police. So investigators were left on their own to validate Jeremy's claims of mass murder. And a closer look at Jeremy's stories revealed nothing to back up his shocking claims.
We spent several days going to different counties that he had give us information about killing someone, but we could never come up with any victims.
We were never able to substantiate any of that information.
Jeremy might not have been the prolific serial killer he wanted police to think he was, but it was clear from the evidence that he and Christine were responsible for the very heinous and very recent murders of Butch and Gretchen Parker. And when the media caught wind of Jeremy's claim that he was trying to rid the world of child molesters, the story became an overnight sensation.
When Jeremy Moody was arrested, letters began to pour in from his supporters.
You couldn't turn the channel without hearing about it. People just couldn't get enough of it.
And all of the attention Jeremy was getting started to make Christine jealous.
When she found out that Jeremy was getting more attention from the media than she was, she called us back and gave us another statement.
Coming up, Christine Moody finally tells her side of the story. And as their sensational murder trial begins, will the jury sympathize with 2 vigilante killers of child molesters?
Child molesters do not deserve to live.
For them, they had done a good deed.
To all outward appearances, Christine and Jeremy Moody were a church-going couple in Union County, South Carolina. But the couple's dark secret had been revealed when they were arrested for the brutal double murder of 59-year-old convicted sex offender Butch Parker and his 51-year-old wife, Gretchen.
Jeremy Moody confessed to law enforcement that he had shot both Mr. and Mrs. Parker.
He said they had a plan to rid the world of child molesters. He said if they hadn't been caught, they were going to do it again.
At first, Christine denied taking part in the murders. But when she saw how much media attention her husband was getting, she called investigators back to her jail cell for another interview. Christine wanted her share of recognition for the murders and didn't seem to care about the consequences.
She was more concerned about him getting all the publicity. She made the comment that, listen, Jeremy didn't come up with this, I came up with it.
Christine actually told us that she was the mastermind.
If Christine wanted equal credit for the Parkers' murders, police and prosecutors were more than willing to give it to her. She and Jeremy were both charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. On May 6, 2014, Christine and Jeremy reunited in a Union County courthouse to enter their pleas. From the way they acted, they seemed more like long-lost lovers than cold-blooded killers.
That was the first time they'd seen each other since their arrest. They sort of fawned over each other and grabbed each other, gave each other a hug, and, were obviously smitten.
Christine and Jeremy both pled guilty to the murders of Butch and Gretchen Parker. But the unrepentant killers surprised everyone by throwing themselves on the mercy of the court.
And I know that what I've done is a sin.
I truly believe God has forgiven Jeremy and I. I hope you will too.
Attorneys for the defense asked for a reduced sentence, arguing that the couple both suffered from psychological damage as the result of childhood sexual abuse.
Christine developed post-traumatic stress disorder from the side effects of that abuse. Jeremy suffered from both bipolar disorder and schizophrenia.
However, the judge was not swayed.
The judge sentenced them to life in prison.
And after their sentencing, Christine and Jeremy made it clear they didn't regret anything they'd done.
Child molesters do not deserve to live. They got exactly what they deserve. Had to do it over again, I'd kill more.
What about what you said in court about repenting? Is that not true then?
No, it's not true. My lawyer made me say it.
Do you have anything to say to the victim's family?
May they die also.
Although the world viewed the couple as vicious murderers, it was clear they saw themselves in a very different light.
In their minds, their mission was a success. They were ridding the world of child molesters.
I don't think they understood how horrible the crime was that they committed. For them, they had done a good deed.
This was their moment of glory.
And even though the couple would spend the rest of their lives behind bars, it seemed their love would never die.
Jeremy truly believed that the love he had with his wife was unlike anything anybody had ever experienced, and it completely transcended anything that was happening to them.